Let's get stuck into the controversy straight away. Maiden Cops follows the story of three unlikely human-animal hybrid police officers who all like to show off their tits. They've been tasked by their commander, who likes to show off her tits, to hunt down and destroy a gang known as the Liberators, who all like to show off their tits. You do rather wonder just how much more liberal this gang would like the city to be. In any case, things are quickly getting out of hand, and the mayor of Maiden City, who, quite bizarrely, doesn't seem so keen to show off her tits, appeals for calm, order, and presumably some federal cash for a citywide underwear initiative. Tits aside, what we have here is a straightforward pixel art beat-em-up that plays a lot better than it has any right to. Each of the three player characters have their own defined movesets, with grabs, throws, and 3 specials each, all of which can be chained quite effectively, especially when bouncing people off the edge of the screen, Street Fighter style. I like how Mega, the heftiest of the three characters, is the only one to be able to wield big weapons like lampposts and steel bars, while Nina, the smallest, will climb on an enemy's shoulders and slap them about the head like Skate from Streets of Rage 2. Any money you earn from completing levels in the game can be used to buy new outfits for the characters, in addition to some old school cheats and even some pervy photos of the girls showing off their tits. In short, if pixel art and people showing off their tits are your bag, you might want to try Maiden Cops. What do you get if you cross a raccoon with a warthog, a rabbit and a frog? It's certainly an interesting pie, but all joking aside, Jitsu Squad has quite genuinely become one of my favourite scrolling beat-em-ups of recent times. It's rare to find a game with so many excellent mechanics but nothing overwhelming, a story that's actually funny but you don't have to read endless text to enjoy it, level design that's packed full of variety and never lingers in the same spot for too long, and otherwise superb graphics, excellent animation and controls and feedback that are all pitched so well. You'll have the choice of all 4 player characters from the off, each of which play entirely differently. Complete the game once with any of them and you'll unlock the tag team mode, allowing you to swap between any of the characters on the fly as you go through the campaign again. There's a brilliant sense of fun throughout, like this power-up that sees a man eating a chili, jumping into the air and farting to clear a screen. There's an entire song written for the game called Surfing on the Lava as you, well, yes. And I love the fact that Jazz the Frog thinks he's Bruce Lee. The combo feedback really is superb. You'll actually be able to pull off a chain of moves intentionally rather than just button mashing, with more moves added as you progress, and all of the characters have their own bespoke weapon pickups and meter-driven super moves. It can get a bit hectic on screen at times, but bring a friend along and seriously, there are a few better scrolling brawlers out there at the moment. Go. A man may hunt for many things in his life. A sense of belonging, pride, bears, his car keys, even though his girlfriend says they're on the kitchen side, but they aren't, and even if they were, there are 14 fucking sides in the kitchen, so which one is it? But here we hunt for vengeance, and I have to say that we're doing it in style. This is a brand new game built for the original Neo Geo, a console you could only really own if you struck oil in your back garden, but luckily it's now been converted for all the modern systems. The pixel art, animation and overall character in this game are brilliant. Each of the 3 characters play entirely differently from one another, and they have plenty of moves that you can chain at will, creating your own combos and juggling multiple enemies on the ground and in the air. The chunky arcade sprites are complemented perfectly by the meaty sound effects, with each hit landing with purpose. The bosses are quite varied and inventive, and it's great to find that they're not the usual attritional affairs. There are actually tactics you can employ to avoid damage and beat them. You can swap characters when you die, which is always appreciated to keep things fresh, but bear in mind that there are no save states in this game. If you want to win, you'll have to do it the old-fashioned way with a set number of credits. Some great difficulty, graphics and control mapping options round out one of the best overall modern arcade fighters you can play at the minute. Karate Survivor is more addictive than smoking salted caramel crack. I really didn't have this on my radar, but it's turned out to be one of the most pleasant surprises of the year. If you never played Vampire Survivors because it looked too basic or you didn't get the control system, prepare to be completely won over by this type of survival beat-em-up. The premise is incredibly simple. All you need to do as the player is move your mini martial artist through several enclosed environments, beating up endless hordes of increasingly tough thugs and surviving for a set amount of time until you encounter the level's boss. You don't need to press any buttons to attack, that's all done automatically. You just have to keep moving to use a huge variety of handheld and environmental weapons simply by coming into contact with them. But don't let the simple elevator pitch fool you. This game runs surprisingly deep. During gameplay you'll collect money from dead thugs to level up and add new perks in real time. Between levels you can use any collected teeth from corpses to buy permanent upgrades for your next run. You'll be able to build your own combos and upgrade them. You'll dive onto armchairs and spin through a crowd, taking out tens of goons. You'll fire guns, set off explosions, collapse structures and batter people with flamingos, and that's only a tiny fraction of the fun on offer. The just one more go factor here is off the scale. Karate Survivor is only available on PC at the time of recording, but I wouldn't be at all surprised to see it released on consoles and mobile in the very near future. If you've had one of those days at work where everything was a hassle, your brain is falling out of your ass and you just need something quick and easy, fire up Karate Survivor and purge that rage. There are times when Transformers Devastation is so close to the game any child of the 80s has always wanted that it's genuinely annoying. But for more variety in the locations and missions and an upgrade and crafting system that made a bit more sense, we would have been there. Even so, fans of the original Robots in Disguise may still get quite a lot out of this game. Platinum Games has done a fantastic job in recreating the look of the original cartoon, especially the Transformers themselves, who are all beautifully animated. It's also great to hear the original voice talent again, particularly Peter Cullen's unmistakable growl as Optimus Prime, and fanboys will be pleased to hear that all the characters transform with that noise. In total you'll be able to play as 5 Autobots, with the other 4 being Bumblebee, Sideswipe, Wheeljack and Grimlock. The game starts really well. You can't help but smile as you stomp Optimus's hulking figure through the streets, learning the basics in navigation, transforming and attack. There's a pleasingly fuss-free minimap to help you find your way around, and jumping, double jumping and bashing through obstacles en route to your next goal is all managed with ease and precision. Your combination attacks are something to behold. You'll be slashing through minions with your Energon axe, sniping some off rooftops and running over whoever's left as that famous red truck, all in one fluid movement. Within minutes it's time to put those newfound skills to the test against the screen-filling boss. The controls and feedback are pitched perfectly and it all feels great. You can upgrade each character to boost all the usual stats, and you can build new weapons with parts found in the environments, but none of them are that exciting and you find you're better off sticking with 1 or 2 trophy weapons dropped by the bosses. It's the level design that's the real issue here though. It's just so bland and lifeless, which is incredibly disappointing after all the effort that's gone into the fantastic characters. It smacks of a developer that was on a deadline and simply run out of time. In spite of its lack of ambition, Transformers Devastation is great fun to play, and I found myself going through the 4 to 5 hour campaign several times for some instant gratification. Each character looks and sounds exactly like their beloved cartoon counterpart, and experimenting with them all is a joy and a spectacle. Owing to the end of a licensing agreement, you won't currently find the game available digitally, but there are still plenty of physical copies out there. The Arcade Archives collection has been growing for years now, freeing previously arcade-only games for everyone to enjoy all over again. You really can discover some long-lost gems that still stand up pretty well today. It's a shame, however, that no deal has yet been struck to bring Xbox and PC permanently into the fold, so for the time being I'm afraid the pleasure is only for those with either a PS4 or a Switch. If you're a serious classic beat-em-up fan, Zero Team is one you shouldn't miss. Although the character sprites are clearly smaller than many of those in Puncher contemporaries, the detail and animation on each of them is crisp and distinctive. The environmental design is a cut above. You rarely move more than 20 game meters before the backdrop changes entirely, which really helps to keep things interesting. Bringing the camera out further than normal also helps to enjoy the main event here, the 4-player couch co-op, and it's a shame I didn't have 2 other people available at the time of recording because it's brilliant fun to watch the punches and kicks flying in from all directions. It's still good fun with 2 though, and several of the levels have a couple of platform tiers that you can jump up to and down from, helping with clarity and positioning. Aside from a great standard combo for each character, including modifiers to slam opponents into the floor or knock them into the air, the sheer number of things to play with in the levels is a great bonus. You're always picking up barrels and explosives, and while there aren't any bats or knives, you do have a bazooka that lets you fire off a number of shells before you finally smack the empty weapon over someone's head. I'm impressed with how easy it is to fight people on either side of you, avoiding the usual arcade problem of being caught in a chain of punches from which you can't escape. And even if it does look like things are getting overwhelming, you've always got your last resort 2-button super attack to clear a bit of room. The soundtrack is pretty poor, there isn't a single memorable tune across the game, but that really doesn't matter a great deal. If you enjoy getting some friends together for a few beers and nostalgia, I'd recommend you add Zero Team to the evening's gaming menu. Mother Russia Bleeds is nasty. Seriously, this isn't one for the kids, with a load of swearing, drugs and some brutal moves. You know how some beat-em-ups let you pick up guns and they barely tickle the enemies when you fire them? Well, you don't have to worry about limp weapons here. A shot from a pistol will take an enemy's head clean off. It's just one grisly example of many that you can look forward to across a story that's a lot more adult and intriguing than many in this genre. When you get stuck in, you can unleash some of the longest, bloodiest combos I've encountered in a game of this type, and you can even continue to mercilessly pummel people that have hit the floor. There are a lot of moves to choose from for each of the 4 main characters, including some squelchy finishers courtesy of a berserk mode you can trigger when taking a certain type of drug. It's great fun to watch your opponent become ever more battered and bruised and see their clothes tear as you lay into them, and that's all before you get into the melee weapons like the chainsaw. At the same time, there's a great sense of humour, with this drug-addled disco fight being one early highlight, and there are some funny moments in the character interactions delivered by text boxes. The boss fights are nicely varied, and while there are occasional difficulty spikes, the generous checkpointing will alleviate a lot of the frustration. It might have been nice if there was a bit more definition in the pixel art, although at the same time, the aesthetic does work well with the gritty story, and the animation is excellent throughout. If soft, fluffy and wholesome just aren't words in your vocabulary, give this a go. Before I say anything about the actual game here, I should just warn Switch players to tread carefully. I haven't been able to test it myself, but apparently the Nintendo version of Redeemer Enhanced Edition still stutters quite badly, so check before you buy and consider another format if you can. Perhaps Switch owners could comment below on the current state of play if they're familiar with the game. I've been playing on the PS5 with backwards compatibility and everything's run perfectly, but just so you know. And if there are any problems still, that'll be a real shame because Redeemer Enhanced Edition is excellent fun. The game does a great job in taking you through the basics early on, and I'm glad it does because there are a ton of moves. Luckily the controls are well thought out and you're not contorting into spasms to pull everything off. You're constantly picking up weapons in the environment and you can wield a melee instrument and a firearm at the same time. The twin stick style shooting is really satisfying, especially with a fully upgraded shotgun, and all the handheld and throwable weapons connect with satisfying impact. On top of that you have the stealth kills and some excellent environmental death dealing, stuffing people's heads into fires and carving them up with circular saws amongst other things. The difficulty is pitched well, and unlike most scrolling fighters, you don't necessarily have to finish off an entire group of enemies before you can proceed. There's a nice balance of risk and reward. Do you want that scrap with a tough group to replenish your life for the rest of the level, or do you cut your losses and leg it to the door, dodging and diving between swipes and shots? To top it all off, we have local co-op and a full range of weapon upgrades and brand new abilities to unlock, all of which can be taken forward into any future playthrough. I think it's true that some of the later level design loses the sense of place and spectacle somewhat, but the fast-flowing, hefty combat with so many options just never gets old, and it keeps pulling you through.
Get him!
Okay, so what if you don't want gimmicks, a million collectibles, skill trees, or 3 weeks of story text to read before you're allowed to start a new level? What if all you want to do is throw some knuckles at a face and boot someone as hard as humanly possible in the love spuds? Final Vendetta has got you covered. This game boils everything down to basics, offering a highly polished modern take on everything we loved about beat-em-ups in the 80s and 90s. The 3 player characters are very Axel, Blaze and Max, and you'll know immediately how each of them will handle. The levels are uncluttered and easy to read. They might be a bit too simple in places, despite the odd nice animated background or environmental trap. As you punch your way through the levels, you'll be breaking open the usual phone boxes and crates to find weapons and gorge on suspiciously warm baked goods. Beat-em-up characters must really get through a lot of Imodium. Final Vendetta is unlikely to surprise you in any way, and that's probably why you'll come to it, along with the excellent character animation and enjoyable movesets. I particularly like how well the weapons have been implemented. They all feel impactful to use, and you'll get some decent time with them, rather than the usual break after 3 hits crap, provided you don't get knocked down. It's a good balance. Crank the difficulty up, and Final Vendetta is one of the toughest modern brawlers you can play. If you fancy yourself as a proper old school arcade king, this might be the challenge you were looking for. And finally for this list today, I thought it was appropriate to end with another forgotten gem from the original beat-em-up heyday. For the first time since its release over 30 years ago, we have an official home conversion of Metamorphic Force, courtesy once more of the Arcade Archives collection. The story is classic arcade bollocks, written on deadline day at 3 in the morning. The evil king Death Shadow, you have to feel that his parents didn't expect him to become an accountant, is presiding over the Empire of Horror. To counter this evil, the goddess Athena has summoned 4 men who have all played way too much Altered Beast and have learnt how to turn into animals. In practice, this is all really good fun. You've got the usual one-button combos as the humans, but once you've collected a small statue in any given level and turned into a bull, a wolf, a panther or a bear, you get a whole new range of attacks. Collect any more statues and you go nuts, bombing around the screen and causing loads of damage. We've got bright, colourful, chunky sprites, crunching sound effects, a nice variety in the level design and responsive controls. Get a friend to pick up a second pad and you've got everything you could want from a classic arcade beat-em-up. So, those are my picks for a few brawlers you may have missed. What have you been playing? Please let me know in the comments below and leave me a like if you wouldn't mind. I'll be back very soon indeed with a lot more games, new and old, that have been flying under the radar, so don't forget to ding your notifications bell. I'll see you soon.